All right, so we are back. We made it to the next week where have a huge. It was a huge week last week, round one of the playoffs. I'm gonna. We're back this week. We're in a good mood, so things are looking up for us, and we got some big matchups coming up in the semifinals this week. We'll get into that in a
Very
little
excited.
bit. Probably going to be a little bit shorter of an episode, but it's a big week. It's starting to get serious now. So
Semifinals, baby.
yeah, I know it's big, but we'll start off as always. NFL stories of the week. First one, first story of the weekend. Resulted in a coach getting fired. The first game of the week. The Raiders
Thursday night. The over under was like 30 for this game. And the final score was what, 64 to 20?
63
Something
to
like that.
21. Crazy. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with. LA is done. Brandon
Shambles.
Staley fired after the game, along with their GM. So it's going to be a full rebuild in LA this offseason for the Chargers. But for the Raiders, good signs. Especially for their interim coach coming in. He's done a great job so far. They're finding Devontae Adams more. Josh Jacobs wasn't even playing, and they were still able to get a lot out of Zamir White and Amar Abdullah. So they're doing well. They're doing, much better than they were doing with Josh McDaniels at the helm. And, the Chargers, unfortunately, the ones at their expense this week and losing their head coach in the process as well.
Yeah. I don't think anyone saw a score like that with two backup QBs coming in, but crazy game. And then, yeah, obviously another huge story, the Dolphins. They skunked the Jets 30-0. Mostert went off. He broke the record for most touchdowns
Rushing
in a season,
touchdowns.
rushing touchdowns, or tied it, something like that. I mean, their offense, it's thriving without, arguably the best offensive player in the game. That's not a QB, which is kind of crazy. Like especially against the Jets defense too, and they're not a joke. Like even though the team's a joke, the defense is pretty good, and they were able to like move the ball, get down the field, score, and then their defense. I think the Dolphins' defense is getting scary. I think that's the one of the biggest parts about them that's different. But obviously seeing them win without Tyreek is huge. So that's a big story. And then last one, obviously a big one around the league. You want it?
I mean, this is for me. It's just we're gonna get into the Commanders game next, but it was really just nice to see the Cowboys lose like this.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
Buffalo is for all the questions that we've had about Buffalo this season, they've definitely been an up and down team. They're starting to pick it up now, and they're starting to get big wins. They got one against or lost to
Kansas
the
City,
Eagles, but then picked up wins against Kansas City, and now the Cowboys. They're you know
big win.
looking like a really serious threat in the AFC again. The offense is picking up. James Cook had a great game. Josh Allen is starting to turn the ball over less, which is definitely looking good for them. They are, you know, overall just getting better. And I think similar to what you said about Miami, where their defense was, maybe struggling a bit earlier in the season, they've started to rebound. Bills defense being able to hold the Cowboys to 10 points is pretty significant. So I think it's, on both ends of the ball, really impressive for them. And despite their record being 8-6, they're definitely in a good position going forward if they can keep this momentum going.
Yeah. Definitely one other story that we didn't really include here. Drew Lock, your boy,
Let's
throwing the
go.
game-winning
I
touchdown to JSN.
got him right
Drew Lock
here, and he did
bobblehead.
it. Look, Drew Lock deserves it.
I was
He was a second round pick. Drew Lock has the talent. He has the ability. Look, Geno Smith is done. His starting job is lost. Drew Lock is the new man in Seattle, and I just want to see him continue to. I just want to see him continue to get work there because he would be the answer for them. They've been up and down this year. Drew Lock would solve those problems, 100%.
I agree. I think another huge part of that is, obviously the Eagles losing their third in a row, kind of crazy. They're 10-1 coming in, and now they're 10-4. Probably won't even win. I don't know if they'll win the NFC East anymore, but
At this point,
we'll see. It's going to come down to the wire there. But let's get into the awful Commanders score, unfortunately.
terrible.
That, there was. I liked seeing Jacoby Brissett out there. I don't know about you. That was. I think the offense. I've liked Howell, but I think the offense honestly looked pretty good with Jacoby Brissett. Our defense is still a problem, and I think the Rams are a really good offensive team. So, 28 points, it really isn't that bad in the grand scheme. But we were out of it the whole game. 28-20 makes us look good. Like it was not really a good game.
Yeah. I was a little bit. I don't mind Brissett playing really. I just
It's weird though.
it's
Like,
weird. Yeah, it's a weird decision. Like at this point, Sam Howell. Like, I mean, I don't know anymore. Like maybe we're not committed to Sam Howell being the guy anymore. But regardless, I feel like he should just be the one who's playing. Brissett's only on a 1 year deal. I highly doubt.
yeah,
I highly doubt what Brissett does if he is to start in the remainder of this season with this team is going to be enough for him to like win the starting job confidently next year. Like we're either going to
no,
stick with
definitely.
Howell or bring in another option. That's what's I those really see or like through the draft that really seems to be the most
That's
likely
it.
option, not Brissett being the starter. So I don't know. It's a interesting decision. Ultimately, we lose anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, just another loss to add on to onto our.
Our awful year.
Yeah, I was like, it's been a bad year where we have done well in fantasy. The Commanders have picked up all of our losses, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. But you
Thank you
gotta,
for that.
yeah, I know. Honestly, thank you. Keep doing
We
it.
appreciate it.
Maybe just
Please.
tank next year, and we can.
Another great fantasy season. Love that. But yeah, that's season's pretty much over there.
Yeah. Now, I mean, into
real,
fantasy. I
real
know this
fantasy
is the
playoff.
first matchup of the week. We'll start off with the other side of the bracket. Yusuke against Joel. Yusuke picked up a huge. I mean, we'll start off with Thursday night. Joel kind of fumbled this matchup from the beginning. He started Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs did not play, so Joel sent his good game. Immediately after making that mistake, he knew what he did, and
The
honestly,
reverse jinx didn't didn't
I
come through.
res- I respect I respect fraudulent Joel because he lost now, not legitimate Joel. I respect fraudulent Joel for accepting his fraudulency with grace. I think that was really respectable. He took his L.
Honorable.
Yusuke put up 140 though, so that's like even though he didn't,
Scary.
yeah, even though he didn't win, like he doubled up Joel's points, he would have beat. I mean, he scored the most points out of anyone this week in the league. So Yusuke, his team is looking real
No joke.
serious right now with James Cook coming back. And Brees Hall didn't do anything this week, and he had Kenneth Walker on his bench. He had Jordan Addison on his bench as well. Like he has a deep team. Higgins as well. Like Yusuke's team is he's going to have a lot of options
Scary.
going into next week's matchup. So you know, scary to see on his part that he's dropping 140, but you know, it is what it is. Joel took his L. Do you have anything else to
It's
add
hard
on
to keep
this?
that up.
Yeah,
But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, do you have anything else to add with this matchup? You say it's hard to keep up, but you've dropped like 140 every
I,
matchup this season, so I feel like
well,
it's
not one. I've been averaging like 120. It's a little more realistic. But I think the one thing that really killed Joel was Tyreek. I mean, Tyreek and Olave arguably his two best receivers. Stroud being out, a lot of injuries there. I mean, Tyreek is 30 points.
it's true.
That's his MVP this year. Like, not having Tyreek is like not having your literal best player. So I think that was really the killer. I mean, on top of Josh Jacobs too, but yeah, he didn't really have a chance after that Josh Jacobs fumble, unfortunately. But let's get into your big dub.
You know, similar to Yusuke, I had to drop a
142,
I had to
the
drop a
magic number.
140 pointer. I couldn't just sit out here with a weak round one. Matt
Yeah.
Matt was he thought he had something this week. I guess he thought he was working with a little bit. I was being modest last week and trying to give him his credit. No, he never stood a chance. He never had an opportunity. Goff and Laporta when they dropped their five. Goff
Three
dropped
touchdowns.
5. Laporta got 3. I said, "Oh, I'm good." I said, "I'm good this week."
That's
Then
it.
Kieran Williams got me 22. Justin Jefferson did all right. Zach Moss got hurt, and he still got a touchdown. Jaden Reed got a touchdown. I was on fire this week. Even my bench did well. All of my active bench players got double digits. Like I was, my team. I feel great about my team after this week. And
You
Matt
should.
we do have to make note of, he was our graphic designer. He was responsible for those eliminated graphics in the last episode. I don't I don't know what
He didn't come
happened.
through.
I don't know why he all of a sudden after losing, he decided he was done making graphics. So, we're going to have we due to time constraints, we're going to have to take that out of this episode. We didn't have time to create those, but it's really I do just want to, make note of that our graphic designer is really the reason why we don't have
He
those.
didn't come through, as he did with everybody else's eliminated graphics, but his own.
And his team
Anyway,
didn't come through this week either, honestly. I mean, 76 points. Even if I don't know, I could have accidentally started someone else. I don't know. Like, I don't
you
know
could have
what. I could have
you would
benched,
have had
like,
to play somebody that was out, and you would
yeah,
have
I know.
might
I
have still won.
still could have won. So,
You could have done that with like 3 players.
yeah, like I could have, with like multiple players. But
Yeah,
the big thing about this week for me, really, and going into next week especially, is the consistency from my team. 3 of the last 4 weeks, I've dropped at least 140 points. That is something that I'm,
scary.
especially heading into the postseason, especially with Justin Jefferson starting to get healthy, especially with, Tyreek, potentially not being healthy consistently. Jonathan Taylor may be coming back next week. Chuba Hubbard is consistently getting double-digit points. I'm feeling really confident about my team and my options right now, and at the right time as well. So we'll get into the bracket and everything and the matchups, but it'll be tough, but I'm feeling good. Feeling good.
So the results we got, obviously, as we mentioned, you and the Yusuke taking those dubs over Matt and Joel. But obviously, I think it's important to mention the losers bracket here. I mean, a lot at stake here. A lot at stake, especially in the Adwin Alex match. And Adwin coming through with a 30-point victory there.
Clutch win.
I mean, right now, him and Ian are kind of the only two on the hot seat besides Alex, obviously. But yeah, Alex needs to pick up a win next week, or it's not going to be looking good there.
Yeah, I guess Alex would be going up against Ian next week. If
If he
Ian,
wins that, he's
yeah, if
back.
Ian wins, then if he wins, then he's
Oh,
back. But if Ian wins, then I guess Adwin could lose, and then they would and
still
then
be
there's
close enough,
potential there.
technically.
But if Ian wins next week, I don't know. It could be
Uh-oh.
that could be our
Getting
last
late
place.
early.
That could we could have our clinch last place. The clinch last place in the regular season.
We have not had that made yet, but we will need to be making one of those graphics. Chop, chop, graphic designer.
Chop, chop.
But yeah, these are the results of the week. So obviously, Sammy and Advin will play, and Ian and Alex, and then we'll get into the matchups for this week in the real bracket.
So yeah, you see the names in green. Me and Yusuke moving forward. The bottom one we got Yusuke and Matt Cohen, but obviously the top one, Jacob's dressed in business
Pod
attire
clash.
right now. He's
The pod
feeling
clash.
very.
I'm ready for this. We had bye week. The bye week was last week. We're taking a little break. We're back to business this week. GM's ready to work. We're good to go.
It's the one
Big
seed
test this week.
I mean, I'm feeling again. I said I'm feeling good about my team, but it is the one seed I'm coming up against. You went 11-3 in the regular season. You had your bye week, so and I don't know the winner of this.
Rest.
The winner of this one is going to be representing A&J in the finals of this. So really, more than anything, more than anything, one of us needs to win at this point. It doesn't have to be me. I do intend on winning this week. That's the goal. But I think just before the podcast from last year, if we can go from last to winning, I think that's the best success story that we could have. So I'm rooting for us.
I am too. I agree with you there. I think the other thing to note is even if one person loses, which one person will, that person can win their third place game, and we have two top three finishes.
This is true.
After two bottom two finishes. That's flipping the table right there.
Exactly. We're there. We're there.
We'll take that. We'll take that, even if you lose this week. I don't want to have that loser's mentality. I'm just saying,
Exactly,
you got
exactly.
to
I'm not
support the
taking.
losers for the
I'm not
ANJ.
exactly. I don't want to take the losers mentality into this week like some people have, but I want to. I want to make sure that we are, just supporting each other
Commemorating
through
this.
this. This is about
Yeah.
the. This is the podcast is winning, regardless of who wins
It's
this
a
week.
pod clash, but it really is a dub for the podcast either way. So we will take that.
First matchup though, Yusuke and Matt. You've gone up. You and Matt have been back and forth for first place all year long. Now he's back after his bye week. He's got Yusuke. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about this matchup?
This is a big test for both of them. I mean, honestly, Yusuke he's been hit or miss all season, and you can't really miss against Matt. I feel like he's going to get a consistent 115 on you at least. His team does have some tough matchups if you look down his lineup. I mean, Yusuke dropped 140 last week. It's a little scary. When you look at it's going to be close. I really do. Like Yusuke has all the check marks, but Matt has the projected total. So I could really see this going either way.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's going to come down to the Chiefs game. I think that is Matt's team. If the Chiefs go off against the Raiders, I don't see any way, unless Yusuke's team goes crazy, I don't see any way Matt doesn't make it. But if the Chiefs fail, I think he kind of fails with them. It's kind of ride or die for him at this point, but he has 4 players on the Chiefs. That's kind of absurd. But we will see how that goes. I respect him. I mean, the Chiefs are arguably one of the best teams in the NFL. So, it's worked all year. He's been a top 2 team all year. I don't want to play the winner of this, and I'm sure you're not excited to play the winner of this if you advance. So, I honestly just hope the better team loses. So, I don't know who that is, but I hope the better team loses.
Yes, I need this to be a fraudulent victory in some way so that
injuries for the winning team.
Yeah, exactly.
Be...
So
you don't want to be
that
rooting
would be,
for that,
but that would.
If you had to be rooting for something, you
don't
want to say it, but if I had to lean one way on this matchup, I honestly think I would lean to Yusuke's team. I'm curious what would you do?
It's like I agree with you because I agree with what you said in terms of like Yusuke's team definitely has the higher ceiling, but Cohen's team has just been so consistent all year. I feel like it does come down to that Vegas matchup, like entirely, and
it really does.
I don't know. I think this is one though that the Chiefs, like at home as well, they've had like a weird few weeks. I think this is a game that they end up taking. I just see this being a Chiefs game. I think Kelsey ends up finding the end zone. I see the Rashid Rice starting that many players is like
Rice is good though. I will say
Rice is good, but starting
4 players.
4 is that's just like hedging everything on one team like that is a lot, but
it's risky.
But I think this is, I have faith in Cohen. When his teams haven't been injured, he's done he's made good picks. He's done generally well this season. I have faith in his team. Being able to pull this one through. But again, it's like Yusuke. I guess he's not doing it this week, but he's been doing the same thing with Cup and Puka in terms of like just hedging 2 guys on the same team. So it's it's a strategy that works. Cohen is doubling it with 4, but I think it can work, and I think it'll end up working out for Matt this week.
Yeah. So you're leaning Matt. I'm leaning Yusuke. Let's see what happens there. And obviously, huge matchup. I mean, let's go position by position breakdown here.
All right.
I mean, from the top. I think that's the only way to just analyze this properly. I mean,
I got nothing.
Looking at my average, 130. Holy, that is just. I think it went up. I don't know how, but
yeah, no, that's too much. But I can't. 130.
It's going to be close though. It's going to be. I mean, the check marks are pretty even, and the projected total is right around 3-4 points. I really can see this going either way. But I mean, if we start at the top, Josh Allen against the Chargers, I'm not very confident. I mean, I think he should get like 15 to 20 points at least, which is what I need. But they were running the ball a lot last game, and it kind of worked. It worked really well, and I don't think the Chargers' defense is that good. I think they'll be able to get out to a lead and just run it for most of the game. I'm not too confident in playing him, but he's, as you can see, the number one QB. I'm not going to bench him. So obviously, I'm going with him. But against Goff in Minnesota, they came off a scary game. I could see Goff getting at least 15, 20. I could really see the QB going either way. I don't know if you. What do you think about
I
that?
mean, I'm leaning Josh Allen for sure, but Goff has been so, and I don't see Goff putting up 30 points again like he did last week, but he's just been so consistent this year. I mean, he did have a few games where he was dealing with turnover issues, just a lot of fumbles and a few interceptions, but when he's, in a rhythm in that offense, he's doing a great job. So I feel confident in him, like you said, at least getting, his projected 15 or so, but he's been averaging 17 a game. It's not like he hasn't been hitting that before. This 30 points didn't skew that up like crazy. He's been doing, 17, 18, a lot this season, and I could see him, definitely hitting that 15 mark, but, maybe not going as high as Josh Allen can.
That's fair. I think they both have I think they have a similar ceiling. I think the consistency is. I think they're not as consistent. They're both not that consistent, but they average around the same amount.
Yeah.
So it'll be close there, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it could be a coin flip in my opinion. I'm really rooting for Allen to pull that one out. But looking at running back, you want to talk like I don't know how you'd want to do this, but you kind of have a lot more and a lot of depth. I only have like two running backs.
I mean, just for these two, I mean, I feel like Kieran Williams and you clearly have the best option in McCaffrey. Like he is the best running back in the league. I think that's far and away like you're going to get your 21 or whatever points that he's projected for, or like around that. I think what is really going to be more important is how does Joe Mixon do this week, and then
Yeah,
how do Kieran Williams? I feel relatively confident about. He's
he
found the
should
end.
get at least 15, 20.
Yeah, it's like I see him, finding the end zone, or just getting at least like 100 yards from scrimmage, something like that. He's going to do well. But the Hubbard Mixon thing, I think, is really the biggest, like at running back, the biggest question there. And Hubbard's been doing well recently. Green Bay's run defense is not good, so I envision him having a pretty good week. And with Joe Mixon, I think it's going to be interesting to see, how does that matchup end up working out. I think that's kind of the bigger flex one at running back in terms of what will matter a little bit more.
I couldn't agree more. It's really going to come down to those kind of matchups, the Joe Mixon, the Chuba Hubbard. It'll be tight, but I agree. I think McCaffrey and Williams might kind of cancel each other out, and then it'll come down to those two. So we'll see how that kind of plays itself out. Looking at receiver, your receiver depth kind of a lot scarier with Justin Jefferson back. And obviously the Eagles losing a few in a row. Their offense hasn't looked as dynamic, and I have kind of two pieces in there with them. But A.J. Brown against Jefferson, I could see that being close. I think Jefferson has a better matchup, and I think he will likely do a little bit better than A.J. Brown. But, I'm confident in the Eagles' offense bouncing back at some
Yeah.
point soon, and I kind of think they need to get A.J. Brown involved to do that. So I think A.J. Brown kind of has a higher ceiling, but I think Justin Jefferson is going to he's going to get you 15, 20 points. That's the thing. It's just, will A.J. Brown go off? And I think that's what's really going to determine this matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that that's going to be a big one for the both of us. Justin Jefferson, I really liked what you said about like the Eagles needing to bounce back at some point and involve AJ Brown more, because I feel like they've gone through that cycle a few times where like they've offense is kind of slumped, they're like iffy, and then they have to get AJ Brown and Devontae Smith the ball. Like I think Brown is someone who, especially in a divisional game at home against the Giants, I see him being a big part of the game plan. Can say the same for Justin Jefferson, especially as he ramps up from his injury. But, again, with the quarterback situation in Minnesota, it's just, there's no telling. Yeah, it's iffy there. Second receiver, though, DJ Moore. And, this is where I'm a little bit iffy, too, with my second starter. I think Moore has been Moore's been picking it up with Justin Fields back starting. You're getting back to the DJ Moore who you had at the start of the year, which is definitely that's scary for me. I don't know what
Mm.
I'm going to do with my second receiver, though. I have Waddle in there right now. I also have Waddle, I have Nico Collins and Noah Brown on my bench, and depending on C.J. Stroud's health and both of their health, if Nico Collins is healthy, maybe I just play him. If he isn't healthy but Brown is, maybe I just play Brown. Those are both options that are available to me. I have Jaden Reed as well, who has been finding the end zone a
He's
lot
been good.
consistently, and he's been playing really well for them. So I have options outside of Waddle. I'm not really sure if he is 100% my starter at wide receiver too, but you know, still, I think you have in DJ Moore, you have an option that is far more consistent than any of the ones that I can put out there for wide receiver too. So really counting on my tight end and flex. We'll get into that in a little bit to carry me through this matchup and give me that
Yeah.
extra edge. But wide receiver is one I just see you taking me at.
I think I need to take the win here at receiver. Just literally, just exactly what you said, because I think you have a big advantage at tight end, even at flex. So I'm going to say I really need to get out big here with the receivers here. DJ Moore has a good matchup against Arizona. Honestly, I think I'm hoping Tyreek Hill is out so that the Dallas focuses more on Waddle and shuts him down, because I think this game could be a shootout. And that would be scary for me if Waddle has another game like he did last week. So if Waddle puts up anything over 15, that's massive for you, I think, or
Yeah,
whoever your second receiver is.
whoever.
Um, but I think that's going to be a key position for you this week. But we'll see how this matchup ends up going there. But going into tight end, I am scared. I mean, Laporta just had arguably his best game of the season. I don't even know. I mean, I think I have to start Goddard, but Kincaid has not really been doing much since Dawson Knox came back. I don't want to kind of double down on the same team, even though I have AJ Brown, but that's more kind of hedging, I think, with that receiver room. But I think I'm going to probably stick with Goddard. I think you'll probably win this matchup, so I think I need to get points in other places. But Laporta's been scary this year.
Yeah, no, that was one of the I feel like one of my best ever fantasy picks, picking up Sam Laporta. Again, tight end is such a big position in fantasy, and I feel like unless if you miss out on that top tier in the draft, which is like Mark Andrews, Kittle, Kelsey, I mean, that's really it. I feel like I guess Hawkinson as well, but you miss out on that group, you're kind of just screwed at that position. You can't do much. You're going to be streaming a lot of the season. To be able to draft someone at the end of the draft who has been able to start for me all year long has been huge for me. And for him to be, ranked number one tight end right now, obviously he's coming off a 3 touchdown performance. I don't see him doing that against Minnesota. But, he
You
is a
never know,
huge,
though.
but he is just as important of a target as Amon-Ra St. Brown is in that offense. And, with Goff,
If not more.
exactly, if not more, some games. And with Goff, starting to pick up, he played really well last game. I see this, potentially being another big game for the both of them. So we'll see what ends up happening at tight end. But I'm feeling confident there unless Goddard gets a touchdown. That's really the biggest thing. Tight ends could always find the end zone. But outside of that, I know Laporta is going to get his targets and his points for me.
Definitely. I think flex is a very different position for both of us. I think
Yeah.
I have to play Sutton. I think he's arguably my best player on my bench, or best available player that's not in the lineup. And against New England, it's a little bit of a tough matchup, but I think you have a lot more flexibility there. Do you think you're sticking with JT? Do you know what you're doing there yet?
I'm not 100% sure. I think how wide receiver health shakes out over the week is also going to influence things for me because there might be a scenario where, if it's Zach Moss again, who's starting, I don't know if I don't know if I would want to start Zach Moss against Atlanta this week. If if it's just Jonathan Taylor, though, I would feel a bit more comfortable starting him. If Jonathan Taylor is out, though, it's very likely that I end up starting a receiver there. That could be Waddle, who ends up being in my flex, or Noah Brown, or Jaden Reed. Any of those guys could make it there. could be Nico Collins. I also have Ty Chandler on my bench now. So, if Madison ends up being out again, Ty Chandler could be the guy who fills in at my flex. I think I'm going to just let the week play out, let some of the practice play out, see who's injured, who's not, and make a decision a little bit later. But, I'm leaning towards running back and my flex. I think that's definitely what I would like to do.
Big advantage.
But yeah, that's, it feels like a big advantage, especially with Jonathan Taylor as the running back there. If you have 3 starting backs, it's a huge bonus. But we'll see what happens. I'm not 100% sure yet, but ideally Taylor is there, and hopefully I have a defense there as well. Waivers are. I'm thinking about just putting a claim in on the defense. I won't say who, but
Obviously.
I won't give it up too early. But I have a few matchups that I like this week on defense, so I'll probably just wait until tomorrow morning, honestly, see what's left and go from there.
Yeah, I guess we don't really need to talk about the defense and kicker too much. It's not a huge
Hey,
thing. I will.
it is the battle of the number 1 and the number 2 kicker, though. You were talking smack about my boy Aubrey earlier, and now you finally
Yeah,
we get to see
it's a
who's
big one.
actually better. My 10.6 average and projected for 8.5. I think that's gonna really carry me. And my number 1 kicker, he might be the ultimate saving grace. So we'll see what happens there.
That'll
But
be a
it is important
big,
though.
big matchup. I forgot about that. And I will say at defense, I know I do have that number 1 defense, the Cowboys defense in, but I think that game's going to be a shootout, and that's why they're projected so low. So I'm probably going to end up going with the Broncos, who play New England, who I have on my bench. I think that's a good matchup. I'm excited about that, but we'll see what happens there, and see who you end up putting in. But it should be close. Those 2 spot kicker and defense, as you can see, one of us is getting the check for each. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then
Now the important stuff.
yeah. Last week was a big week. We finished off our regular season title. We got started with the postseason, and we almost reverse jinxed ourselves from all unders to all overs. Calvin Ridley was the only one who stopped us from flip flopping entirely with our results
Which
here.
would have been
So
crazy. after I go all over last week,
yeah,
of course. But yeah, I mean, it was a good week. I mean, we each picked up 3 points. Kieran Williams, that was very close. Came down to he got 22 points, beat that by .4.
almost fumbled it away. Still didn't.
Fumbled it twice too. You said, right? That's
Yeah, fumbled it twice
almost
and still got
literally
his.
fumbled it. Keaton Mitchell got hurt and still broke his over, which is impressive. Towards ACL, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Matt's out either way, so it didn't really matter. Calvin Ridley, I mean, we both kind of knew that one. That wasn't
Yeah, that
too
was
hard to predict. And then Purdy, we both went different ways on it. And I mean, he got hurt, I think, for like a play or two. Then he came back and threw like 2 touchdowns right after that. I mean, dude's the MVP favorite right now. So kind of wild seeing that, but it was a good way to pick up a point there.
yeah. Heading into this week's matchup. So the regular season is over. We're into the playoff over under now, and we're tied 3-3 at the moment. So this is a big matchup for us. It's every I think really more than the regular season, every over under counts, and I guess we'll start off with our matchup this week. We got Goff and DJ Moore. The over under for Goff is 15.3. What are you thinking on that one?
That's gonna be a close one. I mean, Minnesota has a solid defense, but I mean, Detroit just tore the field up against a good defense in the Broncos. Like I think they'll be on the road. This is a big test for them. This is arguably, I think Minnesota can't win the division anymore, or it's really unlikely for them to. But I think Detroit's going to want to show their dominance in their first divisional game against their only threat right now. I can see him going over this. I think he'll get a couple touchdowns, probably get a couple 100 yards, and he'll do what he does. He'll get 17, 20 points around his average, and I think he'll get the job done and win there, go over. What about you?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. I feel the over on this for sure. I don't think he's doing what he did last week in terms of the 5 touchdowns, 30 fantasy points, but he's on a roll. This offense is starting to find some consistency. I think with David Montgomery healthy as well again and Jahmyr Gibbs starting to, really be a part of this offense, they have such a great, like, just balanced attack with that running game, and then also Amon-Ra, Laporta in the passing game. Jameson Williams is someone who I feel like I'm like expecting him to do more and more, and he just like hasn't yet. But the talent is
They need to
there
get
for.
him involved.
Yeah, it's like they need to, but the talent is there for sure. Um, so yeah, I just see them going over. That offense has been doing really well recently.
Definitely, definitely. And then DJ Moore, you could start this one off. What do you think? Over under 13.7.
I mean, 13.7 against Arizona, I feel like that's a little hot. I know that, y'all have been, or that Chicago's been doing better, and, Justin Fields back. He's been starting to progress some, but I see Arizona just having the better. I don't know. This is like a trap game, I feel like, for Chicago. I feel like this is, something where they're weak enough of a team where maybe this is a resurgent game for Kyler Murray and that offense. Maybe this is an opportunity for them to make, a bit more of a statement. I think Chicago's going to have a down week, and I see DJ Moore also having a down week with that. So I'm going to go under the 13.7. Maybe he does close to this. Maybe he hits his double digits or, around that, but under 13.7 for me.
No, I think we have to mix these up a little bit, and I got to support my boy. He's been carrying me all year. He was kind of in the flex spot most of the year, but now he's shined. He's proven he could be a top 2 receiver to me, averaging 14 a game. I think he had a down week last week against a tough Browns defense, and he still had like 60 yards on some really insane catches. I think they're going to get him back involved. I think this Arizona defense, like they're gonna need to prove something this game as a team. And if they don't at least win this game, I think the coach is arguably going to get fired. And I think he knows he needs to get DJ Moore involved to win this game. He's their best offensive weapon outside of Fields. And obviously, they didn't get him involved last game. I think he's going to want the ball. He was hurt coming in the last game. He's only getting healthier. I'm going to go over here. I think he gets a touchdown and easily gets the yards. So I'm going to go over. And then Matt Cohn and Yusuke. I'll start this one off with Rashee Rice. This dude might be the best pass catcher on their team right now. And yes, just disrespect to Travis Kelce. He looked awful. He's looked awful the last 2 weeks. I mean, he just hasn't been able to get open, hasn't been able to catch the ball. I think he's got like 5 or 6 catches for him combined in the last 2 weeks, which is, I might be wrong on that number, but again, that's not Travis Kelce's numbers. He does a lot better than that. Rashee Rice has taken over the offense. And I think one thing that's kind of proven that is when their first touchdown of the game last week was a little inside dish pass to Rashee Rice. Like a normal pass that would go to Kelce. It's typically seen in Kelce's. And I don't know why they're mixing it up, especially when Kelce's more that fullback type of body. Maybe they see that in Rashee Rice. They see the potential there. I'm going to go over. I think he's going to get a touchdown again. I think these yards are easy for him. He's going to get the targets. And Las Vegas' defense it's kind of unpredictable. I think they're decent, but I don't think they're going to really affect Rashee Rice's performance too much. So I'm going to go over again.
Yeah, I think we're gonna differ on this one too. I do agree. Rashee Rice has been looking like, the receiver in Kansas City and like the guy that they've needed to be, a real number one target for Mahomes. Looking at his numbers for this year, though, and especially the last few games, the last 4 games he has gotten double digits every game, but he's only able to hit, that 13.8 marker. The only times he's done above that is when he's gotten a touchdown. I think his hitting this is very touchdown dependent. They are finding ways to get him the ball and for him to find the end zone, but I'm gonna bet against him not finding the end zone this week. Maybe he gets the same volume, but his week 13 against Green Bay, he got 8 receptions for 64 yards. I could see something like that, something similar happening this week. He got 10.4 points that week. So, I could see a similar performance this week. Maybe something, in between.
Right under that.
Yeah, in between 8 and 11. Not too far off. I think everything you said about him is true, but, I just see his performance based off not getting into the end zone mean he ends up going under here.
I think it's a very fair prediction. And then last one, James Cook. I'll let you start this one off. Over under 20.4.
I mean, he went crazy last week, 35 points. I just don't. 24 is or 20.4 is crazy amount, but like you said, this is going to be an interesting matchup for them against the Chargers, their first game without Brandon Staley at the helm. I think this is going to be, and Justin Herbert's out as well. So, all respect to Easton Stick, but we don't know how this is going to go for their offense. Despite that, I kind of see this being a bit grittier of a game. I think this ends up being, a little bit. I just see this being a game that's a bit more back and forth. I see this being a game that, doesn't necessarily require for James Cook to just be getting a bunch of garbage time rushes or, getting more carries to take more time off the clock. I think it'll be, kind of competitive throughout either way, even if Buffalo does win. And, I see Cook having a good game, but going under here. The receiving thing is that's where he could definitely make me eat my words here, but I see him, I see him getting under this or, maybe around 18, 19. He's going to do well, but I don't see him getting all the way over 20 against the Chargers team that, is just going to have to rebound at home, without their head coach. I think this is typically a game where teams really have a reaction.
I actually couldn't agree more. And I know I was saying earlier they're going to run the ball a lot with the Josh Allen stuff, but 20.4 is really high. Especially, that's a Bills offense. I'm sure Josh Allen wants to pass the ball. They really couldn't this last week. They were only getting yards on the ground. I mean, they proved that. I mean, I think you make a ton of great points. I think it's really going to come down to the receiving yards, if he gets those or not. If he does get those, he'll probably go over. If he gets a lot of catches, he'll go over. But I don't really think he will. I don't think they're going to be passing it that much in that situation. And that means it's going to be a very close game. I really don't see it being a close game. I think there'll be a comfortable range between the teams. But again, I don't really see them running it the whole game. I don't think there'll be a ton of garbage time points for James Cook. I'm going to go under as well.
All right, so I guess we're different on two of
Two
these.
receivers.
So DJ Moore and Rashid Rice are our different picks. We'll come back next week. We'll see. I mean, we both got 3-3 this week. Maybe that happens next week too. We'll end up seeing. Yeah. But yeah, that's all we got for this week. So I don't know. How are you feeling? You're in business attire, so I'll let you give the final address.
I'm ready.
I'll let you give the
I'm
final
ready for
address for your matchup this week.
My team is put together my best fantasy season arguably in my life, at least definitely in my recent memory. And I've had faith in these boys week in and week out, and I think they're going to come through for me. I think I've back against the wall. This isn't an easy matchup. I think your team is gritty. Your team is tough. You have a lot more depth than me. You have a lot of star talent too, and that's all coming back right now at the worst time for me. So I think my guys need to be on their best, beat you. I think I'll only end up winning if I do by 5 or 10. But I'm confident. I'm confident in my boys. How are you feeling?
I think it's really going to come down to making the right matchup choices for me. And I think I've done a pretty good, consistent
You've
job
got a lot
of that.
to decide.
Yeah, it's I've done a pretty solid job of that throughout the season, I feel like. But, this is going to be the most important week for me to do it. So I'm, feeling, feeling good about the options that I have. It's just about making the right choices and seeing them perform, Thursday through Monday. So we'll see what happens. One of us is making it to the finals, though. Like we said, A&J will be represented in the fantasy finals. So, I think it's a win for the podcast. One of us is going to win. You got most points already, so you've won
That's
something.
That's a
exactly. So we're getting accolades regardless of who wins this weekend. Hopefully, it's me though.
Even if we both somehow tie and get eliminated, we taking dubs.
Exactly.
Great seasons all around.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week, and one of us will see you guys in the finals.